Can you all hear me okay? Can you hear me okay out there? Sound working and stuff? Somebody could just let me know, that'd be great. I think I got the settings right this time, the first time hopefully, so I'm hoping everything's good to go. All right, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, well, I'd like to welcome everybody back to another live stream here. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. And tonight, in the past we've talked about, you know, a lot of people saying, hey, do we, you know, can we get like some tabs for this? And I'm happy to say that we've got that all figured out. So if you go in the description of the video, there's a link there, and you click on that link and it'll bring you to Guitar Control's website. And then they said that you should be able to download the tabs from there. Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Thanks for asking. And I know we're a day late on this. It's normally on Wednesday, but had something come up that couldn't get out of, so we're doing it tonight. But going forward, as a general rule, it will be on Wednesdays, actually an hour earlier than it is right now. So yeah, so if you want to get the tabs for all the stuff that I'm going to be going over tonight, just click on that link in the description, and you should be able to download them from the site. They told me they got it all up and going, so hopefully it works. If anybody does it and they end up having any problems or anything, just put it in the chat here, and we'll see if we can address it. I don't know what I'll be able to do about it. I'm not real tech savvy. All right, so what I want to talk about tonight, as you can tell from the title, is power chords. So power chords are widely used, not just in like, you know, rock and metal and stuff, but lots of genres of music use power chords. So I'm sure that a lot of you probably already know, have probably played songs before that have a power chord, you know, the regular power chord like that. So what we want to do, or what I want to do here with you, is I want to expand your vocabulary on power chords a little bit, because that power chord is a good one. It's, you know, lots and lots of cool music has, you know, been written using those power chords. But there are more than just that one, and there's quite a variety of things that you can do with just these two-note chords, which are called dyads, by the way. I'm trying to figure out the name of the power chords on the second fret going up the fretboard. I'm not exactly sure on the second fret going up the fretboard. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. But yeah, so a two-note chord is what is called a dyad, and so a power chord is a dyad. So this shape here, this main one that I'm sure that, like I said, that you probably already used before, is a fifth power chord. So I don't want to get into the whole, you know, music theory part of this. I actually did a live stream, you know, a month or so ago that we went over like the chord scale and all that stuff. So I'm not going to get too involved in that here. But what it is basically is that, so you have a major chord, three-note chord, which is a triad. and you have a minor chord, and then you have a diminished and augmented of those. But for right now, let's just focus on like a major and a minor. So the difference is basically a major chord consists of the first, third, and fifth note of the major scale. And then a minor chord consists of the first and the third, but you flatten the third a half step, and then the fifth. So the third is the note that defines it, that like changes whether or not it's a major or a minor chord. So like if I play E major, the third is G sharp. But if I flatten that G sharp to a G, I get minor. So it's the note that defines whether something is major or minor. So with power chords, a lot of times, not all of them, but the fifth one definitely, all you're playing is 1 and 5. So the chord is neither major nor minor. I always like to call it the androgynous chord, because the interval of a fifth is a perfect. And again, if you don't understand what I mean by all that, if you go, but like I said, if you go back, you know, I don't know, month, 2 months ago, I did a series like they were titled diatonic scales. I think it's diatonic scales 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. I think it's the week prior to that, whatever the one that before the first diatonic one. I actually go through that whole thing about with chord construction. So we're not going to get all into that right now. But what I want to do is I want to show you these shapes for these other power chords, and then go over a few riffs from some popular famous riffs that use these, just so you can get an idea of what it is that I'm talking about. And they're extremely cool to use. You can really add a lot to a riff by having it not just be the fifth, by being these other intervals. So so with this, you literally don't have to know any music theory. You don't even have to know the major scale, although all of that stuff, is really helpful, especially knowing the major scale. And so if you don't know the major scale, learn it. Like I said, I did 5 weeks where we did nothing but work with these scales. Okay, so if we were to look at, we'll look just at this first one here, a fifth. And let me look on the tabs that I've got for you, because I can't remember. Yeah. So the very first one that we have on here is a perfect fifth. So the pages that you'll be downloading, there's if they named them what I named them, there'd be one that just says dyads, and then one that says dyads 3-2 strings, and then one that says 3 easy dyad riffs. So right now I'm just looking at the one that just says dyads. So this shape right here, and I'm going to do this how it is on the tab. So on the tabs, it's showing that I'm on the 7th fret of the A string and the 9th fret of the D string. So this is an E and this is a B. So if you count up from E, F, G, A, B, it's 5. So that's what this is, a fifth. This shape is always a fifth. If you play a note, except between the 3rd and 2nd string, that's why there's a separate tab. So for right now, we're just going to look at this. So if we're playing a power chord based on the low E and the A and the D and the G, or the B and the high E, the shape is always the same. So you go to any one of those strings. So let's go to the 3rd fret of the low E. Now we skip a fret and go to the next string. It's a perfect fifth always. Now between the 3rd and the 2nd string is different, but we'll get to there in a minute. So what we want to do is we want to learn these different shapes. So this is a fifth always. Now again, let me look on here so that way we can. So yeah, so that very first measure on the dyad sheet, it says perfect fifth, and it's this chord that I'm doing right here. Okay, and then the next one, the second one, says diminished fifth. So a diminished fifth is when you flatten the 5 a half step. And this, like I said, was all covered in that theory one. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the note here on the D string and we're going to move it down a half step. So now I'm on the 7th fret of the A string and the 8th fret of the D string. And that is a diminished 5th. Now you might be thinking, listen to that. Well, that doesn't sound very good. I don't want to use that in I mean, what kind of a song is going to be based on that? Well, typically it's not going to be just sitting on there, but it's going to be a passing, like a passing chord. And when we do some of these riffs, this will make more sense. But in the meantime, what you want to do is memorize that shape. So you've got a 5th, perfect 5th, a diminished 5th. And again, these shapes are the same. It doesn't matter what key you're in. It doesn't matter what strings you're on, unless it's the B and the G string. So diminished 5th on the A and D string, diminished 5th on the D and G string, E and A string, B and E string. It's always that shape. So that's the second one. Now, on the third measure, we have perfect 4th. So the perfect 4th one is really easy because it's the note that's just straight up on the same fret, just on the next string of wherever you're starting. So in this case, we're starting here on the 7th fret of the A string. So the 4th is on the next string, same fret. So probably the most commonly used power chord is the 5th. The second most commonly used is the 4th. Now, here we're starting on E. So if we count up 4 from E, E, F, G, A. That's an A. And again, it will be the same across any of the strings. E to A, that's a 4th. D to G, it's a 4th. B to E, it's a 4th. And again, the G and B strings are different, and we'll cover that in a minute. Now, if you take the 4th, the notes that are in the 4th can be this between 1 and 4 are the same as between 1 and 5 if you invert it. So I want to explain this so it's not confusing. So if we were to take this one we're doing, here, this diminished, or this 5th we're doing here. So this is E, this is B. E, F, G, B. Now, if we turn it around backwards and make B the lower note and E the higher note, B, C, D, E. Now it's only 4 away. So if here's 1, here's 5, then that means the note that's right straight up from 5 is 8, which is the same as 1. So if I could play this chord like this as a 5th, but I could also play it here as a 4th. It's the same notes, but it's a different interval, so it sounds slightly different. So an example of where you have probably heard this before is Smoke on the Water. So all the time, like Smoke on the Water is like the first riff that most of us probably learn, but a lot of us learn to play it wrong. So I'll have students that'll come in and they'll have learned it and they'll play it like this. When you listen to it, like that sounds right. And if you played along with the recording, it wouldn't sound bad like you were playing the wrong chord. It wouldn't sound dissonant, but it wouldn't quite sound right either, because those are the right notes. The very first 2 notes for the first chord of Smoke on the Water is a G and a D. But it's not a 5th, it's a 4th. So we're going to invert it. G here, D here, and then G here. So if I just play this, or you can do this 2 strings open, that's actually the way that they play it. But if you play it the other way, it still can sound, to your ear, it's probably still going to be recognizable, but it is different. They're completely different. Well, it's the same notes. Like I said, it's inverted. You're hearing one note before you're hearing the other one. We hear sound. We hear like the lower pitch first. I'm just wondering, why did you get your first guitar, and what was it also hard to play before the age of YouTube? Yeah. So I got my very first guitar. Well, I went and stayed. I spent the night at my cousin's house, and I was like 10 or 11, and he had already started to learn how to play, and he had an acoustic guitar. And I had already had interest in it. I wanted to learn how to play, but I didn't have a guitar or anything. I had a ukulele that I inherited from my sister, but that was it. Well, he showed me how to play this. Very first thing I ever learned how to play on the guitar. He showed me how to play that. I practiced it on my ukulele. And then my dad bought me an acoustic guitar at the swap meet. Total piece of crap. Strings were that high off the fretboard. It was really hard to play. And that's what I used for a long time. And I took group guitar lessons in the 7th grade and the 8th grade. And it was very, very slow progress. And then I got a Hondo Les Paul copy electric guitar. It was a total piece of crap. I wish I had it now, though. They're worth a fortune. It's one of those lawsuit era guitars, because we're talking, this was like 1983 maybe, when I got this electric guitar. Anyway, yeah, then I started taking private lessons. I took private lessons from one guy for a while, and then I found this other guy that I really liked, and he ended up moving. And before he moved, he gave me this big stack of papers, and he says, "This isn't going to make any sense to you now, but someday it will." And it took years for me to. I was an extremely slow learner. I haven't had a student yet that was as a slow a learner as I was. Anyway, hope that answers your question. So anyway, back to the dyads. So the fifth, the diminished fifth, and the perfect fourth. So the diminished fifth, the fifth, the diminished fifth, and the perfect fourth, those are all intervals that shape doesn't change, because they're perfects and a diminished. Now, aside from those, we also have intervals that we have power chords, dyads, that are major or minor. They don't have the fifth in them. They don't have the perfect interval. They have, you can do a major third, a minor third, and then you can do a major sixth and a minor sixth. Those particular ones aren't nearly as common as the others. But let's look here on the, yeah, okay. So on the tabs on major 4, it has the major third dyad. So when you're playing a major scale, and this is something that I talked about in the other video, but I'm going to talk about it now because it's worth discussing. Even if you do not know how to play the major scale, and again, you should. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to not know it, because it's kind of the key. Everything, all of the answers to everything for music lie within that scale. But when you look at the spacing between the notes, you have a whole step, and then another whole step, then a half step, then 3 more whole steps, and then a half step, and then it starts over again. So memorize that. Whole, half, whole, half. 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half, over and over again. This is important because it will tell you where these notes land when you're playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like we talked about a minute ago. 4, 5. So the next one we're going to look at is the major third. So the major third, from 1 to 2 is a whole step, from 2 to 3 is a whole step, and from 3 to 4 is a half step, whole, half. So that means that if we take this shape for the fourth that we were doing here, the third is going to look like this. So I'm on the 7th fret of the A and the 6th fret of the D. Now, that is a major third. And again, the shapes are the same, just between the 3rd and 2nd that are different. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. So that is a major third. So you can use these for chords and for riffs too. Now, is it going to be a thing necessarily where with power chord, with fifths, it might be like you have a riff like that? Is it going to be like, it could be, but it doesn't really, that don't really sound as, you know, as heavy as that does. But there's still really cool things that you can third, and then hold on a minute, I'm getting an error. Can y'all still see and hear me? I just got some kind of an error that there was a network problem. All right, well, I'm going to assume that everything's still working. I hope so. So just like with a major chord, you flatten the third to make it a minor. So that's what we're going to do here. Here's the major. To make it a minor, we're just going to move that note down a whole step. So what you want to memorize out of this for these shapes is that that's your 5th, diminished 5th, perfect 4th, major 3rd, minor 3rd. So this note doesn't change. Okay, cool, thank you. This note doesn't change. It stays the same because this is our root in this case. We're doing this all based off of an E. So sometimes it's going to be a major third and sometimes it's going to be a minor third. So this where it comes into back with that chord scale that we did a few weeks back. So just really quickly, the formula for the major scale we said was whole, half, whole, half. Well, it's also major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So each degree of the scale has a chord that's associated with it. So each degree of the scale would also have a dyad that's associated with it. So where this is going to come in is that when you're playing, if we had a melody, let's say we were just going, and we wanted to harmonize that by ourselves. That's all harmonized in thirds. Major third, minor third, minor third, major third. Because I'm starting on 1. And what did we talk about? Major, minor, minor, major, the order of the chords. All kinds of really neat things you can do with that. You know, like oh my gosh, I just completely brain farted the name of that song. Van Morrison, Brown Eyed Girl, based off of that same type of thing. So if you memorize these shapes for the, for these thirds, then you can harmonize with yourself, make your own little harmony to a riff or whatever. But you can also incorporate this into more kind of like rockin' kind of riffs and stuff that we'll be looking at in a minute here. Okay, so that was our major third, a minor third, and then we've got a minor 6 and a major 6. So these ones are a little bit bigger of a stretch. So again, still starting from here, from the 7th fret. This is a 5th. Now if I go up a half step from there, that's a minor 6th. And then if we go up a half step from there, it would be a major 6th. Like on Kashmir, that's what the little buildup of that is just going up through there. Oh, that's all right, man. I appreciate you checking in, and they'll be here. And in case you didn't know, there's a description in the description for this video. There's a link where you can download tabs for it. Okay, So those are all the shapes that are based on all of the strings with the exception of the G and the B string. And we'll go over that here in a second. So before I move on, does anybody have any questions about what we've gone over so far? Anybody? If nobody has any questions, then we can move along. What we're going to look at next is, I just want to show you just the slight modification you need to do each one of these shapes to play that between the third and the second string. So what it is that we talked about the fourth is it's on the same fret, but just on the next string. It's because if you look at how the guitar is tuned, it's tuned in fourths. So we have E, and then we have A. So if you count up from E, E, F, G, A, it's 4. And then A to D, A, B, C, D, it's 4. D to G, D, E, F, G, 4. G to B, G, A, B, it's only a third, not a fourth. And then B to E, B, C, D, E. We're back to a fourth again. So what that means is that your B string is tuned a half step lower than all the rest of the strings. So when we do those dyad shapes there, which they're not going to be as common. I mean, it's not like you're going to have like some, song where, you're, like there necessarily as much as you would in the lower strings, but it's still something that you should know. So all you have to do is take any of the shapes that we already did and just move the note on the B string up a half step. So on the tab for this, let's see. So we start off, we've got the minor third. So I'm here on the 5th fret of the G string, and I'm on the 4th fret of the B string. So that shape on any other strings would be a major third, but here it's the minor third because we've moved up a half step to compensate for the fact that the second string is tuned a half step lower than the rest of the strings are. So that's your minor third. Then your major third is going to be on the same fret, like the 4th is on the other strings. Then the 4th is going to be up 1, diminished 5th, perfect 5th, minor 6, major 6. So it makes it a little bit more of a stretch because you do have to move up one. You have to add that one half step to what you're doing to make it so it's correct. So what you really want to do is memorize all those shapes. And again, if you get in the description, there's a link where you can get the tabs for this. So now what I want to do, well, again, does anybody have any questions or anything about any of this stuff with the shapes? If there's anything that you're not clear on, now is the time to ask, because when we get into doing the riffs, it'll help to make it easier for you to follow along with. I mean, I realize that you're not going to necessarily be able to memorize all these right now, but just to make sure that you understand how they work and what the shapes are and all that. So I'll give you guys a minute here if you want it. If anybody has any questions. All right. Well, let's move along then, and let's take a look at these riffs that, and I mean, there's like a ton of them, but these are just ones that I thought would be good ones to use for this, because it'll kind of help you to apply what we've done, and then you can actually see how they're used in the song construction, because you can really add a lot of cool things to it. Now, I kind of didn't really put these in the order that I should have done. It's not really a thing of like, well, I guess it's a little bit of about the difficulty. So the one that's the very first one, we're going to look at last. So if you have the tabs for this, let's go to section B and look at the one that says It's Not Love. So this is It's Not Love by Dokken. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but Dokken, the guitarist for Dokken was George Lynch, and he is like the king of dyads. Like all of his riffs were always based around this, and it's a big part of the reason that they had like a really unique sound. They didn't sound like all the other bands from that era because there was just a lot more going on in their riffs than the old than everybody else was. So this one, starting here on an A5. So I'm on the 7th fret of the D string and the 9th fret of the G string. And if you want to get the tone that he had for this, instead of playing it with a pick, you can actually just like pluck the strings or pinch them to get that sound where it was like the simultaneous. That's not really so much the point here, but we've got a 5th to the diminished 5th. And then he comes down and slides into a perfect 4th here at the 5th fret. So I'm still on the D and the G string. And then he flattens that note here. So that would make this you could call that an F sharp diminished. But what this chord actually would be is it would be C over G, because we're playing the notes that make up a 5th, but since we've inverted it, the root note is actually in the top end there. So by flattening that, then you would call that C over F sharp. So it's a pretty simple riff to play, but again, like I said, it's just showing that like how by these dyads, like the cool stuff that you can do with it. So power chords is more than just a 5th or a 4th. There's all these other shapes that you can do. Okay, and then this other one here, and this one will be able to actually use some, be able to give some kind of like examples of alternate ways that this could have been played. So this one is the Zoo by Scorpions. So I'm sure you're probably familiar with that one, at least heard it before. So with this here, we're pedaling the low E just to open. So this first one we got here is another A minor, but we're down here on the 12th fret of the A string with my 3rd finger, and then the 10th fret of the D string with my 1st finger. So that's the minor shape. And then we're going to go down a whole step. So our root note's going to go from A down to G. So A minor, and then the G is major. Because listen to how that sounds. It's got, it sounds melodic. But listen to if I instead of doing the G major, I did a G minor. See, it doesn't sound right. Not that G minor isn't something that's going to be used, but it's not in that key. So that's why it's important to know those shapes and memorize the whole thing, whole, half, whole, half, and major, or major, minor, major, diminished. And again, you can go back and watch the previous the live streams. So like I said, they're from like a month or two ago. So that's got that nice melodicness to it. Now, the melody is the root notes here. Or whoops. So by adding the third in there, that's what's creating the harmony that goes along with it. So let's just say that they had written this song, and instead of using the major and minor thirds, they just used fifths. Do you think if I slept with my guitar, it would help? Well, I guess that depends on what it is that you're trying to get help with. If it's to help you to play guitar better, probably not. I've slept with mine. That's a whole other story that we can't talk about here. I'll get demonetized. Just kidding. So if we look at if we did this, like, let's say they would have done it with just fifths. It sounds all right, but it doesn't sound. I love the sound of those, having those thirds in there like that. It just sounds really nice, I think, and just gives it like a really nice flow. So we're going to go from A minor to G major. So that's going to move us down to the 10th fret on the A and the 9th fret on the D. Now we're coming down and we're doing F sharp minor. So we're on the 9th fret of the A string and the 7th fret of the D string, because that's our minor shape. Now we're going to move that down a whole step for our D minor, or excuse me, E minor. So 7th fret of the A string and the 5th fret of the D string. Now, those are just two examples of riffs that are made up of dyads. I mean, there's lots and lots of them. I've always really been drawn to those kinds of things. Like when my own songs that I write and stuff, I will always use stuff like that whenever I can, because I just think it gives it more of a flow than just being just the straight fifth power chords that you're probably used to playing. All right. So the last riff that I want to look at, and this one is probably the most difficult one to play out of all of it. It has the most movements, but this is really to give you an example of like how cool it can be when you know these and you apply them. So it's the riff for Youth Gone Wild from Skid Row. So I got to take a peek here real quick and refresh my memory. All right, so the way that I tab this out, it's just this dyad part. It doesn't have the. So if you want to be able to play like the song from the beginning, where this has like you rest, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could just do. It's just a B flat 5. So 1st fret of the A string, 5th fret of the D string. And then it would start where the tabs are on here. So on here, the very first one is just the D, and this is almost entirely just on the D and G string. Great. Glad you're enjoying it. Said this is, in my opinion, one of the when I learned all this stuff and like figured it out and like how to use it and everything, it was like really a turning point for me with guitar, because I not only understood how like all these cool riffs I'd heard or had learned how they work, but I was able to like actually apply it to my own stuff. So this starts off with just the D and G string open. So this is a D and this is a G. So it's D, it's a fourth, but you would call the chord. Did I catch the chords on here? No, I did not. This would be G over D, because it's the notes that are making up a G5 power chord, but it's inverted, so the fifth is the lower note and the root is the higher note. So we got that open, and then we're going to do another fourth at the fifth fret, still just on the D and G string. All right, so we'll have to just break this down into parts. So we've got the D and the G open, and then to the fifth fret, and then to the third fret. So, and then back to the open strings again. Then we're going to do an F major. So third fret of the D string, and it's the major dyad shape. So we're on the second fret of the G string, because the major one is always the next string down a fret, unless you're going from the third to the second string, because then it would be the same fret, because you just have to raise whatever the higher note is up a half step. The second, just remember that with the B string, that you just always have to compensate for it being tuned down a half step by playing one fret higher. So we've got that F major dyad, and then we're going to do the perfect fourth, and then back to the open again. So that's like half of the riff, I guess, right there. So you'll probably at first if you just work on just that much of it. Now, if you notice that when I'm doing this, I'm just playing these with just one finger. You could, use, two fingers like that. And I mean, it's going to sound the same, but honestly, it's so much easier if you just really kind of can get it down, because then you can get the smoothness when you're just using barring with the one finger. And then it leaves other fingers available to do other, cool things too. So fourth, 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 major third, fourth, and then fourth again. Yeah, so the first time through, second time, now we've got an E flat 5 or a D sharp 5, whatever you want to call it. So I'm on the first fret of the D string and the third fret of the G string. So that's just the whole riff. So as you can hear with that, it sounds like there's a whole lot going on with that, more than there actually is. It's because you're hearing a melody within it. If you're just staying on the, and it wouldn't matter if it was just the fifth or if it was just fourths or just thirds. If you're just staying on that the whole time, it's hard to get as a cool of a melody going, or as complex as that is without using all that other stuff. That's like the vocal melody. I'm not going to attempt to try to sing it, but so it's got that higher melody, and then you're putting the low harmony onto it by doing these, and you can do it the other way around, like on Brown Eyed Girl. It's a low melody, and the harmony is higher. I use earbuds on my tablet, taking lessons, then headphones from my amp. Works out really good. Oh, so you got the earbuds in, so you can like hear someone speaking, and then head like cans on over that, so you hear the music. That's a good idea. Yeah, that Smoke on the Water thing, that was like one of the first ones, and that's not on the tabs, but it's just simple. It's just like still on the D and G string. Open 3 5, open 3 6 5, open 3 5 3 open. So that's all completely made up of fourths. So what I'm saying is there's so many of these cool riffs that they're just made up out of these 2 chord shapes, these dyads. Like I said, I really like this for my own personal stuff, or like, things that I write. I was trying to remember one earlier that I could show you, and I've forgotten how to play it. It's part of it's. I can't remember how to play it, but I've done a lot with a lot of my own stuff. All right. So now that we've looked at the shapes and we've gone over those, and we've gone over some of these riffs and stuff, does anybody have any questions now about any of this? Because we're getting pretty close where we could kind of be wrapping this up. So if anybody's got any questions about this subject and stuff right now, I lay them on me. Let's I want to help you. I'm here to help you. And this is a subject that I really like. I like teaching this. Had a lot of experience with it and stuff. So I'd like to help you. And if anybody's got any just general questions, not necessarily about even what we were going over here tonight. And then don't forget to click on that link in the description so you can get the tabs for everything that we went over, with the exception of Smoke on the Water. Nobody's got any questions? Well, let's try and do Stump the Dummy tonight. For any of you that haven't been here in the past, here towards the end, sometimes we'll do like I just call Stump the Dummy, where I just want you to just ask guitar-related questions to see if you can ask something that I don't know the answer to. Not that implying that I know everything. I'm far from it. But it's just been kind of fun. So if anybody's got any questions. Great, and you're welcome. You're welcome. Now that I know how to do, well, not that I know how to put the tabs up in there, but I know how to get them put up there. Moving forward, for the most part, that's what I'll try to do, is that have some tabs to go with for whatever it is we're looking at, whether we're looking at just some riffs or like, you know, technique or songs or whatever. You know, I'll try to have tabs that you can download for them. All right, so nobody has any questions? No one has any questions, and I think that we can probably wrap this up. I appreciate that everybody that came and stuck through it and listened to me ramble on for an hour. Well, if you've got the earbuds in there and then the earphones on over it, that could be why the smoke could be coming out of your ears. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for coming out. I appreciate it. I appreciate that the participation, the commenting, asking questions and stuff. If you like what I'm doing here, hit that thumbs up button and stuff, because that really does help to show that I'm to show them that I'm doing a good job and everything and stuff, and so I can keep my job. Yeah, that is actually correct. Where did you get that from? Darren Goodman began playing guitar at the age of 12 during the 1980s and began teaching and performing professionally at the age of 17. Yeah, that is true. But I guess just crap that's on the internet. All right. Well, again, from your page. Oh, it's on the page where the tabs was? Huh. Okay. I did not know that. I haven't seen the page. All they did is they told me here's the link to where they can get the tabs. Great. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. And if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. And after, it would really help too, is after we stop here and the rerun comes on, if you can leave comments there and hit the thumbs up button there too, because for some reason it doesn't, when you're live, this count is separately from when it's a rerun. I don't understand, how all that stuff works, but that'd be really awesome if you could do that. I'd appreciate it. It lets them know that I'm doing a good job and that you're enjoying what I'm doing. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great night, and I will see you next week. And remember, it'll be Wednesday unless something comes up, but it should be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So an hour earlier than it was tonight, and a day earlier than it was tonight. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. And I will see, well, I guess I won't see any of you, but you'll see me next week. All right. Have a good one. Peace, everybody. I started playing at 6'2". Thanks for your help. Oh, you are welcome. You are welcome, Joe. That's awesome. I've actually had a few private students that started later on in years and stuff. I believe that it's never too late to start. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate it, and you're welcome. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be in such a hurry to jump off because I guess it takes a minute for all the. I guess there's a delay when you type in a comment before it comes up here or something. Maybe I don't know. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and I will catch you next week. Thanks.